cases with an asylum background
Yeah.
are far less than the complete group.
Yeah.
So I don't know why there is only a pardon for the children with an asylum background, but I suspect that a full pardon would entitle too much children to residence permit.
So that's why it's been limited to those specifically with asylum background.
I think there was not enough political support to grant a full pardon.
Okay. Now, if I just for the purpose of clarifying this to our listeners, can you explain to our listeners which categories of children are being covered by the so-called Kinderpardon, or is that what you just answered? That is those who are children with what do you call it? Asylum backgrounds.
Yes, it is basically the children. There are two rules: the pardon,
yes,
and the wortelingsregeling.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that shortly because I have a question for that specifically. But what is the application procedure for those who qualify for the Kinderpardon?
One must make a phone call to the immigration authorities, to the regular telephone number, explain that you want to make use of the Kinderpardon regeling,
okay.
Provide all your details, and then they will send you an application form.
Right. So do those concerned have to do it directly, or a lawyer has to do that on their behalf?
Basically, anyone can do it, but it must be somebody with administrative skills, because the procedure sounds quite simple, and it should be, but even in such a simple procedure, many things can go wrong. Mail can get lost, appointments can be missed. You need somebody with administrative skills. So it's not necessarily a lawyer, but also vluchtelingenwerk, social work, or other people with that administrative skills.
Wow. Okay. Now, in the pardon regulations, you mentioned, and that's the question I'm coming to, that there is a temporary rule. Except for the Kinderpardon, it's a temporary ruling. And then there's also the permanent ruling called the wortelingsregeling. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, can you explain these two situations and why they are so?
Without going too much detail, the rules and regulations are basically the same. But the wortelingsregeling is permanent for children under 18. And on top of that, you have the Kinderpardon, which is a temporary ruling, and that is for those who are older than 18, but at the date of the pardon, I believe younger than 21 years old.
And when is the date of the pardon?
That was the 1st of February 2013, the pardon came in effect. So at that date you should be younger than 21 years.
Whoa, it's quite a very limited scope. I mean, the range within which people must fit to be able to qualify the kids.
Yes, that certainly is, and there are many objections against that limited scope. First of all, I must give a little warning. Those who want to make use of the pardon should do that before the end of April, because at the end of April the pardon will end.
So there is effectively 15 days more.
That's correct.
For the window to close.
That's correct. For those over 18.
For those over 18.
Those under 18 can apply as long as they are under 18. So please do not wait until you're 18 years old. Apply before that.
Okay. Well, let me use this opportunity to welcome our listeners. If you are listening to this program, you have a question or a remark about what we're discussing now about the child amnesty, which is being granted by the Dutch government. You know a child, or you know somebody who may be, who can benefit from this. Please give us a call on the studio line 020-737-1619. You can ask the lawyer any question you about whatever you would like to know. And so please take advantage of this. There's a lot of information, a lot of possibility, and so we want you to react quickly and take advantage. Okay, so let me just repeat that. So for the Kinderpardon, they may be more than 18 years old, but they are supposed to apply latest by the 30th of this very month.
That's correct, Pastor. That's a crucial date.
Now,
Wow.
For those who want to benefit from the waterless regeling, they must be less than 18 years of age.
That is correct, Bas.
And but they are not limited by the 30th April deadline.
That the wortelingsregeling will exist for indefinite time,
Okay.
of course, until the government maybe withdraw it. But as far as now known, it is the intention of the government to make it a permanent rule.
Okay. Wow.
Wow.
Now, is it that the case of Mauro triggered all of this development that we're talking about now, or there has already been in the pipeline, you know, discussions about extending some sort of amnesty to the children?
Well, the case of Mauro gave a face to it. It was already for many years that lawyers and also Defense for Children, Vluchtelingenwerk, all social organizations were asking for a pardon for children.
Yes.
And they were asking for a generous pardon for children, asylum and non-asylum children. But Mauro, being a nice young guy with good intentions and good behavior, he became the face of that request. Because seeing those young men, Mauro, make many people realize, do we really want to send him away?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we really want that? No, we don't want that. And that
Okay.
was indeed a trigger, a political trigger for a movement that was already going on for quite a while.
Wow.
Wow.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Yes, it is.
I recall you made reference to something you call some old cases under the Kinderpardon. And what exactly do you mean by the old cases under the Kinderpardon window or provision?
The old cases I meant with that, those who are older than 18 years old and younger than 21 years old, but also, and that's more in my point of view, I mentioned that in the articles in the African Bulletin. Basically it was a chain of articles, 3 articles in a line.
Yes.
And I explained there that there of course were many more people who have been living in the Netherlands for already a long time. They have maybe have been born here, maybe they're now 30 years old. And they fall outside of the scope of the pardon. But nevertheless they have been settled in the Netherlands.
Yes.
And I think those old cases, asylum cases or not asylum cases, should consider asking for the same treatment as those who are entitled to the Kinderpardon.
Okay. So you're saying that there may be people who are much older, but who perhaps had their youth, grew up more or less, spent a couple of years growing up here in Holland, they could still try to apply for the Kinderpardon.
Formally not. Practically I think it would be a good idea.
To do that.
There is a movement in the Netherlands now, on the moment, and that says that Kinderpardon, how welcome it is too limited in its scope.
Yeah.
It is limited to those who applied for asylum or had an asylum background and meet some other requirements which are completely formalistic. Because those who did not apply for asylum and lived here also for a long time, they are just as settled in the Netherlands as those asylum children.
Yes.
So they should be treated in the same way. And now there is a legal point of view is starting to emerge that says basically it would be wise for those who have been living in the Netherlands for the duration of 5 years before they became 18 years old, they should consider to apply for this kind of pardon for the wortelingsregeling anyway, in spite of the fact that they do not meet all requirements. And then you ask for analoge toepassing for the pardon, and you ask for equal treatment as those who are falling in the scope of the pardon, because you are in an equal situation.
Wow.
Okay.
That should be, shall not lead to a residence permit on short term, but it will open a very interesting legal debate in several courts, and in the end it might lead something good for the person who applied anyway. So I would say, give it a try.
Give it a try. Thank you so very much for that encouraging advice. For those of you who are listening to this program, I believe you find it an interesting development. It is quite stressful to be in a situation whereby you are in legal limbo, whereby you don't know whether you will get the residence permit and be legal to stay and be able to carry your life properly. So if you know people who are affected by this situation, let them know in time that there is a period, an opportunity to try to apply for residence permit between now and the 30th of this month, to rectify things. Are there any, you want to say something? Go ahead.
And it is for those who are older than 18, they really should do it before the end of this month, no matter what. Those who are on the moment under 18 have some more time, but they should apply while they are under 18. Okay. There is no reason for hesitating. The application is not expensive, it is not complicated.
How much is involved?
There is no leases required, so you don't have to pay the government, and most lawyers will be very mild in these matters. Het juridisch loket can help people for free, Vluchtelingenwerk can help people for free. You can try it yourself, and for instance our law firm offered it for a low price of €129, but even if somebody is really down and out, well, we will not stick to that.
Okay.
Because it is for children, and I think not only our law firm, but I think other law firm also will be very well considerate with that.
That's awesome.
Wow, awesome. Well, I think this is very good news for those who are listening. But when talking about the age, I was wondering for those under the Kinderpardon, when you talk about 18 plus, is there really an upper limit for the age, really, in this kind of matter? I want to be clear about that.
There is not. For the Kinderpardon, of course, there's an upper limit in age, but it is moving. It is flowing into another arrangement for human.
Humanitarian rules.
Yeah, humanitarian rules. Because if you have been living here in this country for a very long time, you have been settled, and in realistic terms, one cannot expect you to go where you came from. Then, although you might not fall in the scope of the Kinderpardon, the Kinderpardon is based on Article 8 of the Human Rights Treaty. You are being an adult, you also fall in the scope of the Human Rights Treaty, although you are not treated as gently as a child, because there are other rules applicable to children than to adults.
Okay. Now, one of the conditions for the Kinderpardon is that the applicant, before the 18th birthday, should have lived in Holland for 5 years uninterrupted, and also must not have hidden himself from the authorities. You want to throw more than that? Live uninterrupted, how does that mean? What does that mean? And also not hiding himself or herself from the authorities.
It's a bit of a complicated story. Living uninterrupted here, it means just actually living, going to school. That's rather easy to prove, because you go to school, you ask for the school reports and things like that. That can be done. Not hiding from the national authorities, that is a complicated thing, because, well, if you were not hiding from the national authorities, most likely you have been arrested and detained and perhaps expelled. So that is a kind of limbo. Also, formally, those national authorities might not know you, but the authorities of the city council do know you. They've registered you in the GBA, and those GBA-gegevens will be sent to the Rijksoverheid anyway. So that will be a thing which will cause very, very much debate. Has somebody been hiding from the Rijksoverheid, from the government, or not? Personally, I think it is not a requirement that will be understood by many people, because by its nature,
Yes.
people who are living in this country without a residence permit are not going to spend a visit to the government
For
more
whatever.
than strictly necessary. They like to live in peace
Yes.
and mostly in quiet. So making such a requirement is not very practical.
Let's go. Okay. Now, related to that actually is that there's an issue about giving a false identity, and you know that most people who live without the proper documentation will have some sort of false identity anyway, because they are afraid of being their true identity being known, and getting becoming victimized as a result of that, or being deported or what have you. But you said that there is a sort of pardon that will be given to people under the Kinderpardon regeling who use false identity. In other words, they will be given a chance to confess their true identity under the Kinderpardon and be spared. Is that true or not?
That is correct. If they are, Pastor, if they were entitled to the Kinderpardon,
Yeah.
and using a false identity sounds so harsh, I rather would like to call it an artist name. That is sometimes happening, sometimes there are mistakes with identities. Many things can go wrong, also in translation of names and
Yes.
things.
Like that.
So it is when you have not been making those mistakes more than once, if you only have used one name that is not entirely correct, or one identity, which is also including your date of birth or your nationality,
Yeah.
and you are confessing that it is, it will be forgiven, the government says.
Okay.
And like in the Generalpardon of 1998,
Yeah.
the government will indeed will keep that promise. If you are really only once giving a name that was not entirely correct. But that is something you should always discuss with somebody who really knows his business, because if you start confessing all kinds of things, or you tell all kinds of things, you might tell something that is misunderstood and might cause new problems. So it is best always to get
Good advice
to
before
your
you.
to a legal advisor. Tell everything honestly there. It's like going to the doctor. Tell where it really hurts, because otherwise you get the wrong medicine.
Yeah.
And then you will be advised how to act in your case.
Okay. Well, we invite you to give us a call once again if you have any question for lawyer Kleijweg over this matter. I believe it's very important, very urgent, especially because of the time limit that is available now for the Kinderpardon. We have barely 2 weeks to go. So today is the 15th, so we have about 15 more days. It's only 2 weeks to go. So if you know somebody who needs to take advantage of this pardon, amnesty, so-called, please pass on the word quickly, or give us a call if you have any questions or remarks regarding this matter. Now, sometimes, I like the way you answer the question about the false identity. But imagine that somebody, uses a different passport. Let's say my name is Kofi, and I decide to call my name Johnson. All right, and I have maybe a false ID with Johnson, going about with that. And now I want to take advantage of this. How would I go about that in order not to jeopardize my chances?
My advice is never to commit any kind of fraud. Our office is not cooperating in any kind of fraud, at least not knowingly and willingly.
Yes.
So if somebody says, I have another name and I have another passport,
Yeah.
and I want to use my false identity to obtain any kind of permit, then I would say, sorry, I cannot help you with that. I would say that in my office, I say that on the radio. People should not try that, and if they do that, they do it on their own risk and at their own peril. because using a false identity and false documents is a criminal offense.
Yeah.
They will be usually given sentences for detention about 3 months, onvoorwaardelijk, so not temporarily, but just really 3 months in jail for that. Yes, and after that you will get ongewenst verklaard, and you will not be able to get a residence permit nowhere near in the future, at least about 5 or 10 years.
So where then comes the forgiveness? Because that I wanted to, that's the part I wanted to clarify.
The forgiveness comes from the fact that if you have been using a false name, one false identity, and you confess that,
okay, so you
then
want to
you
wait
will
and then
be
you come in.
given the possibility to give your real identity,
Yes, I am ready.
and then the case will be closed.
Okay.
So, on the basis of your real identity, you can apply for this permit and go on with your life. Using false documents, a false identity will never be the basis for a nice, quiet life, because for many, even if you succeed for at least 12 years after that, your residence permit can be withdrawn. So by the time you are having your own business, you're thinking about your grandchildren, you can get a tap on your shoulder with a message, well, we need to talk together.
Yes.
I think you have to give your residence permit back to the government. So don't do that.
Thank you. That's a good advice. Very good warning. Now, so back to the two aspects of this whole thing. Under the Kinderpardon, somebody who, for some reason, used a false identity from the beginning may be forgiven. But that is not the case with the Waterlanes reeling. And the Waterlanes reeling, you said that they will not be given a chance to correct a false identity they may have used from the beginning, if that is the case.
I understood that in the workingsregel there's also some escape for that.
There is.
But I can imagine that if a child was... I can imagine, it's not really an escape, but if a child was told that his name was so-and-so by his parents, and later it turns out to be different, the question is, of course, can you hold that against a child? I don't think so. But those wortlings of this wortelingsregeling is basically for the new cases. So people with a new case can anticipate on that regeling because it's an existing regeling. So people can know that regeling, they can know that situation, and they can adjust their behavior on that. So it is not something that is coming to them with hindsight. They can act upon it. So that's the difference between the wortelingsregeling and pardonregeling, and therefore the wortelingsregeling is a little bit more strict.
Hello? Oh, I think we lost that call. Okay. Well, interesting. If you're listening to this program, you have a reaction, a remark, or a call for Anton Kleijweg, please give us a call now. We don't have the whole time, but once you miss this opportunity, it may be gone. I would like to repeat that we have about 2 weeks to the closure of the window of opportunity for those who need to apply for the Kinderpardon, which the government has instituted for those who have been living in Holland for at least a minimum of 5 years, and they probably had their 18th birthday or so in the Netherlands, and the government wants to help to rectify their residential status. So, if you know somebody who is in this situation, this is the time for them to take advantage and to correct the situation in their lives. Let's try see if we can take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, go ahead.
Please, can you keep me off?
Come again?
Can you keep me off the line?
No, we're in the program now. Do you have a question for the lawyer or not?
Yeah.
Well, you can speak without mentioning your name. That's okay. You don't have to mention your name. Go ahead and ask the question. 13 years.
Yes. And he's an audit.
He's what?
He's an elderly person.
Elderly person, okay.
Yeah. And the lawyer has to face the case authority.
Can a lawyer help the person do what?
Face the authority.
Okay, yeah. If somebody, the question is somebody's been here for about 13 years and is in this situation, can he be treated or handled under the Kinderpardon or something like that he's saying?
Yes, Pastor, that's possible. Basically, an immigration lawyer like me should be able to receive clients or people like this. They will get information and advice about their specific situation.
Yeah.
And then you can decide together it is wise to
go for
contact with the authorities, or it is on this moment not wise to go for contact with the authorities.
Okay.
That depends on many factors.
Yeah.
And therefore we also have a spreekuur at my office. So when you call my office with these kind of questions, you get an invitation, or you can ask it by email or so, and then we can have a look at it. It really depends on the case, because in cases like this there are hardly standard cases.
Okay. Now, so if you are the whole call, the answer is that it will be good to, meet the lawyer and then to present your situation, and then together with you, the lawyer will be able to see whether you can benefit from this amnesty that has been spoken about. So you can take a chance and give it a try. But remember, you have only 2 weeks to go if you want to take advantage of this opportunity. Thanks for that call. If you're still listening and you have a question or remark for Mr. Kleijweg, do that in time, because we have just about 5 to 8 minutes to finish the program. Now, the question I want to ask before we take a short break is, can anyone qualify under both the Kinderpardon and the worthless regeling for amnesty?
That's a good question, which I did not think about yet, Pastor. That's true, because you can only have one residence permit and not two.
Yeah.
So it does not matter much. If you're under 18, you should always apply for the wortelingsregeling. And if you're 18 years or older, you should apply for the Kinderpardon. If one does not fit you, the other one might will.
That is quite. It's good in a way. It gives more room for maneuver. As a matter of fact, okay. So if somebody is much older, the person can try the Kinderpardon.
And even if you do not meet the requirements for the Kinderpardon or the wortelingsregeling, but you have been living here in this country for a terribly long time.
Yeah.
Think of 20, 25, 30 years.
Yes.
Then it might be. And if you have been of good behavior, you have built you've got roots here, you have maybe friends or family or church or club or
whatever.
You're a settled person here, then it might be wise to have a look at your situation anyway.
Yes.
Because in immigration law, things are very strict, but in some cases there are rules with exceptions on that, and on top of that exceptions. So in some cases there are things possible where you did not expect them to be possible, while in other cases it is really impossible. So it's just to have a good investigation in the case.
Yes.
Don't think I've been in this country for 5 years, I want a residence permit, now I want a residence permit, I am entitled to it, because one is not. But if one has been here for a long time, has been working for 25 years, then in spite of all rules and regulations, things might be possible.
But how are you supposed?
That is very comfortable. You want to ask a question? Go ahead.
Yeah. How is one supposed to be working when you are undocumented? So.
Well, that is something from the past. In the past, people could easily work without a SOFI number and without documents. It was quite easy to get the SOFI number. And some people have been working here under their own name, on their own passport, and they were not bothered. So there are people in this country who have been here for 35 years, 30 years,
Wow.
and had a working background. Later on, when working became very difficult, at least on semi-official papers, they started working without any kind of documents. Some people are self-employed, they set up businesses, and some of them, I know, they have a real good business case. They make a proper living, but they don't have any kind of documentation. So there are more things possible than you might expect on first glance.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a short break now and we'll be back. In the meantime, if you still have a question, go ahead and give us a call on the studio line 020737 161. And we're talking about the Kinderpardon that is currently available. Yes. Live with valid residence or not?
No, I mean, you haven't got a
No. Okay.
but it's just what they happen to be in the hospital now. And they were saying that on the 30th it's finished. So after maybe you come out from the hospital or from the police or something, can they apply?
Did you get a question?
I got a question, sir.
Yeah.
It is, Pastor, it is good to have this question because you can apply by telephone.
Oh,
This
by
person
telephone.
in the hospital can apply by telephone,
Wow.
or can ask somebody else to apply for him. And then the date of the application by telephone is treated as the date of application.
But in any
Of course,
case,
you must make a phone
call.
a note that you've been talking at this day at that time with this person from the immigration authorities. That's why you need the administrative skills.
yes.
But that is the moment of application. So even from the hospital it can be done
Wow.
by the person or on behalf of the person. Also it is
With telephone,
He wants to
we'll give that to
give
you later. We're not allowed to give that online. Call us later for the telephone of a lawyer.
For them now.
Huh?
You want to start to apply for them now?
Yeah, you mean the immigration office number or the lawyer's number?
Oh, okay.
But call us later so we can give it to you, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
But my question is, can the lawyer apply for the people that are sick?
Yes, that's very well possible, because if people are sick, there is also a special rule for that. If people are so sick in this country that they cannot travel, they need urgent medical treatment,
Yeah.
they can get a tijdelijk uitstel van vertrek, which is basically a temporary decision, at least a decision from the Ministry of Justice, not to expel this person for a given amount of time.
Okay.
Depends on the sickness, of course. That is also applicable on people who are terminally ill, so they're basically in the last months of their life.
Yeah.
And very important, it is applicable on pregnant women for the duration of 6 weeks before the date of birth and 6 weeks after the date of birth.
Wow.
That is crucial because when you get uitstel van vertrek, you don't have to worry for the police. You get a free health insurance, which cover all expenses, especially also for child delivery. You get a weekly allowance of, I think, 55 euros, at least a small allowance. And if you are homeless, which is also happening quite often to people,
Yes.
then there will also be housing available in an AZC. So you get your room, you get food, you got what you need.
Yeah.
It's not a Hilton hotel, but it will do. And then you have, at least for the duration of the last weeks of your pregnancy and the first weeks after the date of birth, you will be taken care of.
Wow.
And believe me, you will be taken care of properly.
Wow.
Okay.
That's good.
Wonderful. I think about 2 more questions to go. You pointed out that the wilderness regulation is applicable to younger people that we had discussed already, younger than 18 years, 19 years, and with an asylum background. Now, are these conditions strict to the letter?
For the regeling, it is very strict to the letter, but the general point of view is that the ruling is the regeling is not in accordance with European law.
Yeah.
One cannot make a distinction between two groups of people on the basis of status, only because of status, asylum, non-asylum, without justifying that. It must be a relevant status. And in this case, many people have been thinking about that, including myself, and there is not a good reason to be thought of why to make this distinction on the status. And therefore I repeat personally, strongly believe that in the end this wortelingsregeling and kinderpardon should be applicable also on those who do not have an asylum background. So therefore I urge people, contact a proper lawyer, a specialist, and apply anyway. It will cost you nothing or almost nothing.
Yes.
And you might regret it for the rest of your life if you don't. Because this is something, it is far from sure that you get it. Far from sure. Don't believe any beautiful stories about people who will fix everything for you, because that's not so. It will take a long procedure. But I think there is a fair chance that in the end there will be the option to get a residence permit.
Amen.
Also without asylum background.
Well, that's awesome. That's very, very good news. Now, the final question I would like to ask, maybe it's a way of telling us very briefly what are the conditions people must meet to qualify under the Kinderpardon, and then number 2, under the wortelingsregeling. Can you just rehearse those conditions quickly for us before we finish up?
In general, I would say the first and most important requirement is that the people must have been living in this country for at least 5 years before they became 18 years old.
Okay.
They must not have a serious criminal background, because very unpleasant people we don't want to get residence permits. For the wortelingsregeling and basically also for the pardonregeling, it is required that your identity is properly established, that you do not have been using false identities, that you have an asylum background in such matter that either you applied for asylum yourself, or your parents have applied for asylum for you, and you must have been in the view of the national government, which is the Dienst Terugkeer en Vertrek, perhaps NIDOS, and the immigration authorities, maybe also the police. And that is a bit tricky, as we discussed before, but that is the requirement. The positive side is that, like I explained, that even if you do not meet all those requirements, it is wise to apply for it anyway, because those requirements might not be that strict in the end after all. But this is certainly not a promise. I think it is an advice just to give it a try. And for being an immigrant, you've been giving it a try already for your whole life, so keep trying.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Well, on this note, I would like to end the discussion. Mr. Kleijweg, thank you so very much for coming all the way from Voorburg in The Hague. I don't know how early you woke up, but I really appreciate the sacrifice. And for you, our listeners out there, I'm sure you value very much this very timely, important information he's brought to us. So pass on the word as we said. If you have further questions, don't hesitate to give us a call on 06845. 0684 606 550. Let me repeat again, 0684 606 550. Or send us an email to voiceofnaija@live.com.
And they can get information of Mr. Kleijweg in our website.
And thank you, and we will be looking forward to. I hope you enjoyed the program. Keep listening. We will be bringing to you very shortly the news. Contact our website if you want further information about Mr. Kleijweg also.